everybody. So good to see you here. As usual, this is our every Thursday, 8:30 People, Travel and Culture. Time really flies. This is our episode number 17, where we have a chance to discover and explore this beautiful Europe together. And one thing that always amazes me is the diversity of Europe. 2 weeks ago, we explored the beautiful town of Lake Blake with amazing scenery. Last week, we discovered the amazing architecture and the beautiful palaces in St. Petersburg. And this week, we are going to find out from our guide, Teresa, the melting pot of Lisbon, Portugal. I hope you have a great time with us. If you like this program, please like, share, and comment below. And are you ready? Let's go to Lisbon, Portugal. Hi, Teresa. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Wow,
I'm
what a
fine,
long
I'm fine.
time.
Yes,
Long time for us to meet each other.
that's true. We all miss our jobs so badly. It's so good to see you.
Yes, true. At least with technology, now we can meet together and we can bring our Malaysian travelers to Portugal, to Lisbon.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So how's things going with, sorry.
It's fantastic to, to be able to show a little bit of our country, even if I'm in the comfort of my home.
Oh, yes, that's true. A lot of travelers, by the way, just to share with you, in the past 1 month, we have done a section. This section is called People, Travel and Culture. We have done one in Porto. We have done one in Braga and Guimarães. So far, the response are very good. In fact, our travelers were asking why there's no Lisbon, That's why we are so glad today we have you to talk to us about Lisbon.
Yes, it's my favorite town in the world, but well, I'm from here, so I'm a bit suspicious to
Yes.
say this, but it's a beautiful city. It's a
Oh, I
beautiful
agree.
city.
I agree. In fact, I share with all my travelers, one of the countries that I love the most is actually Portugal. I just fall in love with this country the first time I visited Lisbon and a lot of places in Portugal. Yeah. So just wonder, how's the COVID situation in Portugal right now, especially in Lisbon?
Well, especially in Lisbon, well, it's way better. Really, it's getting much better. In general terms, in Portugal, it's getting much, much better. Everybody's being vaccinated, so it's really, really good. It's going quite quick. They're more professional now, more organized. And I think that at the end of September, most of the population will have 2 doses because it's going quite
Wow.
quick.
I see. So are people still wearing masks in Lisbon?
Yes. Yes, that's very, very funny because we finally understood the magic of wearing a mask. If you're sick, you won't contaminate other people. It's very efficient. And I believe that we took a little while to understand, but now we got there. But I was wishing that when everybody would be vaccinated, that we would not need a mask anymore.
Oh, yes,
Only
yes.
if we would have a cold. Let's wait for it. Let's wait.
Yes. What sad things, we have beautiful face and yet we cover it with masks all the time, right?
It's horrible. We don't recognize people anymore. It's so sad. I pass through my friends on the street. I don't see them. They don't see me. And sometimes I say hello to people and they're like in panic, trying to figure out who I am.
That's a good one. I like that.
It's so funny.
I know, I understand. It's a matter of time we are back to normal. But today we are so glad to have you to share with us more about Lisbon. I can't wait to hear from you a lot about Lisbon. And just wonder, maybe you can give us some idea to our travelers. What's the population of Portugal and where is Lisbon in Portugal?
Okay, so the population of Portugal, it's around 10 million people. I don't know if you have an idea, but Portugal is sitting on the little corner of the Iberian Peninsula. So
Yes.
our only 2 neighbors is Spain, okay, and the Atlantic Ocean, okay?
I like
And
that.
so, which is my favorite neighbor because I love the beach.
Oh, yes.
I live 20 minutes now walking from the beach, so I'm super happy.
You know what? I've been telling my friends if there's one country that I'm thinking to migrate, could be Portugal. You know, I love the
No, it
sea
is.
as well.
It is amazing. And I live in an area now. I'm in the greater area of Lisbon. So you were asking me where Lisbon is, and it's very interesting because well, Lisbon it's not it's in the middle of it's not in the middle of Portugal. It's in the littoral area. Okay, it's really really close to the sea, but it's not in front of the ocean. Lisbon is in front of the mouth of the river Tagus, which is a beautiful
Mm,
river that crosses the Iberian Peninsula, the biggest river in the Iberian Peninsula. And it has its mouth in front of Lisbon. So Lisbon was built in front of this river that it's so wide in the area of Lisbon that it looks like an ocean, but it's not, it's a river. But if you follow it a few miles towards the west, you will get to the ocean very quickly. And it's such a beautiful area. Lisbon, it's a bit more towards the south of Portugal. Okay, it's on the top of the first third in the south of Portugal, and it's close to the river, close to Cascais. I love to walk to the sea and go to the beach in 5 minutes. It's beautiful.
and you don't have to worry about COVID because you have all the vitamin C.
Yes, that's true. We have plenty.
So good
Vitamin
to hear.
D is very important. It comes from the sun. Well, C, we also have it because we have the best oranges in the world, I can tell you.
Okay, and by the way, what's the population of Lisbon?
So the population of Lisbon, it's around 500,000 people living in the city. But the greater area of Lisbon that works all together, we cannot isolate Lisbon just for itself because we have other towns around that are completely dependent on Lisbon. We have almost 3 million people, okay, in the greater area of Lisbon. So it's the most populated area in Portugal. It's busy around here, but it's the place where you have more cultural activities, things to do, places to discover. But we cannot ignore the rest of the country. Obviously, it's beautiful. But Lisbon, as the capital of Portugal, has a very important role in terms of all sorts of activities, economical, cultural, especially. It's our little melting pot, Lisbon.
Oh,
It's the
yes.
place where all these new cultures that come from all around the world meet here, and sometimes amazing things happen because it's our tiny little melting pot. 3 million, it's not a lot of people, but it's already enough to be a very special place.
Oh, yes, that's true. In fact, one of when we visit Lisbon, one of the place that we must visit is the Pena Palace. And I find this palace is very unique, very special. Maybe you can share with us why is Pena Palace so special, stand out among all the
Well,
palaces in Europe?
I can tell you everything that is based on a love story, it gets very special.
Ah, I see.
so,
That's a good one.
So in the greater area of Lisbon, we have very special towns. I already told you a little bit about Cascais, and Sintra is another one. And you have the forest, and Sintra was already classified. Yeah, actually, the landscape in Sintra was classified as a World Heritage Site. And that's
Wow.
very important because what you see in there was built all through the years, especially during the 19th century with the arrival of the royal family to Sintra. They decided to create this paradise, this unique paradise. And we always have to refer the genius mind behind this project, which was King Ferdinand. He was not the king, okay, let's say. He was the man, but he was married to the queen. Mary
Mhm.
the Second. They were much in love. They spent their honeymoon in Sintra. They Ferdinand loved the place, and he discovered on the top of a hill the ruins of an old monastery. And he actually bought the ruins, and he started to work on them on a beautiful project to build this unique palace to his wife. The only situation was the one, the sad part of the story was that Queen Mary died very young. She was on her
Oh.
30s. Yeah, she had, well, they were quite a busy couple together. They had, on 17 years of marriage, she was pregnant 11 times. 11 on
Wow.
17 years. So when she gave birth to her 11th child, she died. It was a big tragedy. Can you imagine? King Ferdinand was such a devoted husband. He loved his children, he loved his wife, and he was building this, his life project, the Ponte Palace. And when his wife died, he dedicated his life to this project. He kind of, in a way, to spend his time and to forget about the tragedy that happened to him. But there's always a twist.
But
If you're a good person, there's always a way to find another way to be happy. And well, he continued his project. He built a beautiful garden around his palace, and he eventually one day went to the opera in Lisbon, and he saw this amazing opera singer, Elise Ensler, and he fell in love with her, and they ended up getting married too. So he had someone else to share, the love that he had, and loved the landscape, decided to transform the mountain of Sintra in this, paradise. So it's all about a love story.
I see. That's very lovely. In fact, I find that it's very unique, as in it's small, compact, but it's very nicely decorated. And what I like the most is the color, bright color.
Yeah, so the thing about Ponte Palace is that it's not a huge palace with these
Yes.
big rooms where you get lost, where you would have like 200 people dancing. No, he made this palace for his family. So it's very intimate, it's very special, it's very cozy.
Yes.
So when you cross the rooms, you can see that it has a very human size. It could be almost your living room or the house where you live, with tiny, living rooms where you can sit for a tea or a coffee, or you can get dressed, with dressing rooms. It's very comfortable. It's cozy.
Yes.
And you have these bright colors. And the thing about this palace is that the style is very unique too.
Oh,
When
yes.
you look at it, it looks like it was made by 5 or 7 or 10 different architects. It wasn't. It was one project.
Oh, yes. I never forget, the experience of us organizing the Lisbon tour, where we have a good tour of Sintra. Then after that, I still remember there's a restaurant which is very close to close to the Sintra Palace, and the one that I tried, the one dish I like the most in Portugal, in Lisbon, is the peri peri chicken. Is that right?
Yes,
I
I
still
remember that.
I love the peri peri
It's
chicken.
true. It's true. It's one, it's one of the influences of the Portuguese traveling all around the world, because we got spices from India. We got from where you are, we got a lot of special spicy little things that completely changed the way we eat in Portugal.
I think that's one of the reasons you say Portugal is very interesting, because of the concept of the melting pot, the mixture of culture and people. That's what makes the
Without doubt,
country
it
beautiful.
is a melting pot. And we love to discover new things, new ingredients, and bring them to our gastronomy. And then, I used to say that pepper saved our lives.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. In fact, the way we organize our Spain and Portugal tour is very unique, because we don't go on the direct, we don't go from it's not a normal, ordinary kind of tour, but it's more like a gastronomy. So we are bringing our travelers to experience different food. And I think that makes a lot of reason to do it in Portugal, because of the concept of the melting pot.
I love when you guys come here and try things that maybe you're not so used to eat when you're in Malaysia. This is a very special time of the year. I love summer in general. It's my favorite season. Okay, I don't like the cold.
Oh, really?
But even when it's cold here, it's sunny. So our winters are quite sunny. So winter, spring, autumn, summer, you name it, it's always good to go to Lisbon, and you enjoy a good view to the river, and a good coffee with a beautiful view, or a beer, and you're done.
Wow, life is so great when you travel. Oh, I like the way you paint the picture. It's so exciting. Yeah. And besides that, as I was reading, I find one very important experience that we must try the next time is to sit on a tram, because there's this special, they call it the Tram 28, right? Is that right?
Yes. Well, in Lisbon now we have 6 trams. Okay, it's not just one, but it is true that there's one of them that is the most famous. It's the 28 tram, and the 28 tram. It's quite a ride because it crosses
Wow.
most of the a few of the traditional neighborhoods in Lisbon, with narrow streets, with
Wow.
beautiful views, and it's quite of an experience because in this modern world that we live now, with big trains and fast planes, and it's we're not used to this kind of transportation. It's so tiny. It was made just to pass between those houses in the middle of those narrow streets.
I see. And in fact, when we were in, usually what we do is after our trip to Sintra, after a good meal, then we'll go back to Lisbon. And one of the places when we arrive in Lisbon is to visit, I'm not sure if I pronounce it right, Torre de Belém.
Yes, Torre de Belém.
Okay. Torre
But
de Belém.
if we say it in English, Belém Tower. So
Belém Tower.
it's
Okay.
okay.
I see. Belém Tower.
Okay.
What's so special
So
about this Belém Tower?
it's very special. It's like a kind of it's our little crown in Lisbon. It's one of the very good examples of architecture of the time of the discoveries. So we have to think that during the time when we were sending Vasco da Gama to discover India, to discover the sea route to India, that we didn't know how to get there, but we were very insistent, and we eventually discovered how to
Yes.
get there and started to trade. And that was very important for Portugal. That's why I was saying that pepper saved our lives, because when we started to sell pepper in Lisbon, the King of Portugal got a lot of money, as you can imagine.
Oh.
And with that money in Lisbon, he got, the opportunity to build, to leave his mark, so to say. And I'm talking specifically about King Manuel the First. So he decided to build on the side of the river, outside of the city, because inside of city of Lisbon, there was no space to build, a big monastery. So in the district of Belém, that on the 16th century was not part of Lisbon, was another town. And it was a place, kind of a sacred place, where the navigators would set sail, and they would make attend a mass. They would make like a procession maybe before they would go into the boats, because religion was always a very important thing in the organization of a big trip. You would never know when you were coming back.
Yes.
So it's very important. And in Belém, we have we have these 2 monuments. We cannot separate them because they're like brother and sister, so to say. We have the
Mm.
monastery of Geronimos, and we
Mm.
have the Belém Tower you just asked. So the Belém Tower was basically a building that was created to control the entrance of the Tagus River. Every boat that was coming from north of Europe, from the south, and that was coming actually into Lisbon, they were entering through the Tagus, and the tower was
Mm.
there to check what was going on.
I
Very
see.
important building.
Then when you mentioned just now why is this Geronimus monastery is so important? I mean, as in work hand in hand with the Belém
So
Tower.
this monastery that is very close to the tower, that I say that was sister and brother and sister,
Yes.
the monastery of Geronimus was built as a pantheon, was the place where King Manuel wanted to be buried. So when he
Oh.
would die, he would be buried in there. And every king wants to leave his mark. Every king and queen want to leave, something done. And King Manuel, obviously, because he had all this money coming from the pepper business, it became very special because it's a symbol of an era. The style and this
Good point.
Manuelin style, which is a decorative style in architecture. Very sculpted, very complex. That's the most important jewel that we have in our jewelry box, I would say.
I see. I understand. And in fact, I find it very interesting because right after a visit of the monastery, we actually walk. It's just a walking distance. There's this very popular egg tart shop, right?
So the egg tart in Portuguese, it's called pastel. So
Pastel
one,
de nata.
pastel. Two, pastéis. So we call it pastéis de Belém.
Oh, the blend. Oh, okay. And outside of Lisbon, it's called pastel de nata. Is that right?
Yeah, well, not outside of Lisbon, outside that specific shop. You can find
Oh,
all around Lisbon and all around Portugal. Well, let's be honest, everywhere where you have Portuguese people, you have pastéis de nata. You have this egg tart. If you go
yes.
to Paris, you can find pastéis de nata, but not pastéis de Belém. It used to be a sugar refinery. They started their business in the mid 19th century, and the thing was, they got this recipe. We don't know from where. We can imagine that maybe it came from the monastery because monks and nuns, they always had a sweet tooth. One of the recipes that actually was found by the people that created this factory. They decided to start selling egg tarts to people in Lisbon, and they became very famous. And obviously, they are one of the types of pastéis de nata. But this recipe is so unique and so secret that there's inside of this factory, there's a chamber called the Chamber of Secret, of the Secret, like Harry Potter, where nobody but the chefs can go in and do the trick that we don't know what it is and create this
Wow.
amazing pastry. So only here in this shop is the only place where you can find or buy pastel or pastel de Belém. So the egg tart from
Wow.
Belém. It's so delicious.
Oh, yes, yummy. I can never have enough. I'm a big
Yes.
fan of Portuguese tart. In fact, besides that, there's also another place that I find very interesting, but I have problem pronouncing the name. It's called Parodo de Preguimentos. How to pronounce that?
Padrão. Well, that's our
Padrão?
very tricky sound. It's the sound.
Oh,
When you
okay.
have an A and a O, and you have a till, like an accent on top of it, we call it ão. So padrão,
Padrão,
good. Dos
douche,
descobrimentos.
or dash cribrimento. Okay.
Yes, almost there.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
So basically, let's say it in English that it's much easier. It's the monument to the discoveries. Okay.
Ah, yes. Okay, that is easier.
Yes, the name changes quite a lot. It's actually, a way to make to pay an homage to all the navigators, all the great people that traveled all around the world. So this monument is like in the shape of a boat. The monument, by the way, was created by an architect and a sculptor. So the architect was Cotinelli Telmo, and the sculpture was Leopoldo de Almeida. And these two artists created like this sort of ship, this boat that is right in front of the river. And on both sides of this sort of caravel, let's call it like that, we have these men walking up towards the top of the boat. There's only one sad part. It's that most of them are men. They forgot about the women. Like if we didn't have women in history, there's only one woman in there. And she's a queen. She's a very important queen, Queen Philippa of Lancaster, the mother of the remarkable generation that started, that opened the gates of Portugal towards the world. She was
Wow.
a very important woman, I can tell you. It's an amazing place to visit, without doubt.
Oh, that's for sure. And that's why I find, there's so many things to see, so much to see in Portugal, in Lisbon. And besides that, I find culture in Portugal is also very interesting.
In terms of gastronomy, that we were talking about food and spices and the piri piri chicken, we taught the Japanese, the Portuguese, when they went to Japan, they were very shocked because they used to eat everything or most of the things raw, raw fish like sushi, which is
Yes.
amazing. But the Portuguese, they like to fry absolutely everything. We have fryers.
I like that.
So we taught them the technique of tempura. Tempura
Really?
comes from a Portuguese word, which is tempero, which basically means
Oh.
temperar, seasoning. When you put
Mm.
salt and pepper and you mix things, you're seasoning things, you're seasoning food. And that's
Mm.
tempero. And tempero gave, it's at the origins of tempura. And I think that's
Ah,
the best one we gave them.
that's a good one. I like that. And how about other countries? What are the influence that you have to other countries? Do you have any
Well,
other example?
we cannot forget that the Portuguese Empire, at a certain moment, if we think about, an empire, we always like to think like that. If we were a country that was, invading other lands and going to places all around the world. The Portuguese were basically everywhere. So we gave a lot of influence. For example, we cannot forget about Timor, which is not very far
Oh,
away from
yes.
Malaysia. They
Yes,
still speak a bit of
Indonesia.
Portuguese. It's the last place in the world that became independent from Portugal. So, well, it was complicated, between the 70s and the 80s. You know the story with Indonesia. It was very complicated. But I remember on the year 2000, we were praying for Timor, praying for the war to end in there. And right now, I have a friend living in there. He's a chef in Timor Leste. If you go there, he's amazing, and he's working in a restaurant with and mixing Portuguese food with Asian food. It's a fusion, It's the
Oh,
concept
yes.
right now. It's magic when you mix everything. We are 10 million people speaking Portuguese in Portugal, and more. We can say that we have around probably 30 million Portuguese officially
Wow,
with Portuguese passports all around the world. Okay.
that's a
But
lot.
we cannot forget about the 200 million people that actually speak Portuguese in Brazil. It's a lot of people, really.
200
So,
million people in Brazil that speak Portuguese.
yes, it's amazing. And they still have many influences from us. And we left our culture there, our religion, our way of solving things. There's this very Portuguese thing that it's, when you have a problem, when you have an emergency, a complicated situation, Portuguese people are always the best to solve it. And the
Oh, really?
Brazilians took it from us. Well, if you have a problem, you'll find a way to solve it. It's never a problem, okay? It's never the end of the world.
Wow.
We never get in panic. If you give a problem to a German, he will panic.
I like that. That's so true. In fact, I always say this. So this is something that two things I felt the moment I arrived in Portugal. One is the Portuguese are very determined. When they want to do something, they do. They make it happen. That's so Portuguese to me. And the other thing is they always go. They always go extra miles. I have seen a lot of country do tourism. I think the Portuguese actually started it quite late, but the moment they want to do tourism, they really put all their heart into it. That's amazing about Portuguese.
We always manage. We always find a way.
Oh, yes. So COVID is never a problem. It's a problem temporary, but it's not going to stop Portugal, right?
I won't stop us. I promise you.
So good to hear that from you. And in fact, what a great chat we have. Just to share, even in Malaysia, you can find Portuguese tart, and that's my favorite food. And of course, we actually got it from Macau, and Macau used to be part
Yes.
of Portugal.
Yeah, I didn't talk about Macau, but it's true. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
They still have if you go to Macau, you can still find the pavements on the ground on the floor that they look just like Lisbon, with those white and black cobblestones.
Oh,
It's like
yes.
if you were home and you're so far away from Portugal.
Yes.
Very funny.
That's amazing. That's very beautiful about Portugal. And so good to see you. What a great chat we have. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll definitely gonna see you very soon.
I hope. I miss you so much. And your
Yes.
people, they're so nice. And I love to show them Portugal. So please bring them back.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for your time. Glad to see you and see you again soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy travel with us to Lisbon, Portugal. This is one city, one country that I really enjoy. Beautiful city, beautiful country. And are you ready to find out where we are going next week? Next week, we are going to go to another beautiful country by the name of Zagreb, Croatia. See you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much. Good night.